I was going to open up today with a little joke, a funny little story, something jovial to get us started. But I decided I'm not going to do that today. Today I'm going to take a little more serious tone on just what's happening to all of us, what's happening to this planet. I have never seen a time, ever, where governments, Big Brother, is out to take advantage of you. Have you? Ever?
Our whole life.
But you know what? They're not going to win. They're not going to win because of you. Because you are awake. You have finally realized that enough is enough. The lies, the deceit. Why don't they just tell us the way it is? Tell us the economy's screwed up. Tell us we go to war to take advantage of other countries and resources. Tell us these things. Don't lie about it. I was just reading, I had a story on Coast to Coast a couple days ago where they're now ready to use biometric palm readers instead of cash or credit cards when you go to the store. So there'll be a little device in your palm, you'll program it, right? You'll link it to your bank account, to your credit card. I'm going to link mine to David's bank account, by the way. And you go to the store and you just hold your palm over a reader, a biometric reader, and that's it. And money's taken right out of your account. How embarrassing would it be if your palm didn't work? It's at its limit. But it's crazy. But I really believe and I predict there's going to be a ripple round effect. It's going to turn around. It's going to come back in such a way that we will be the winners before they do. I guarantee it. Talking about credit cards. I was calling my bank yesterday. I wanted to know what the balance was on my card, because I know when I come here I get stuck paying for all their rooms. I'm kidding, Bob. And so this computer comes on and says, please touch tone the last 3 digits of your last name. So I went, okay. And I looked at my phone, and the last 3 digits, NOO, right? Who's got a smartphone on them? Pull it out for a second. What are the 3 digits associated with NOO? 666. I'm the Antichrist. I didn't know. Of course, they say in the Bible the Antichrist doesn't know he is the Antichrist. So, from here on in, when I do Coast to Coast and interview people like John Hogue on just who is the Antichrist, it's me. I have no idea what the future holds for us, but I promise you I will try not to fulfill biblical prophecy at all. Let me introduce the panel and we'll get going with this. First of all, the guy who's one of the most elegant speakers, just eloquent all the way on Coast to Coast, is a guy I can't give a title to. Because he does so many things. He's a researcher. He's an author. He could be the reincarnated Edgar Casey. Give us a profile. Yeah, that's right. He's an expert Gangnam Style dancer. Yeah, I think I will. Can you play the Coast to Coast theme again for me? And just keep playing it for a bit. Can you do that? Mr. Audio Man, play the thing. Play the thing. David? He actually thinks he's a male stripper. Hold on, don't go away. I want that $1 back, David.
I worked for it, I earned it.
Yes, you did. Can I have 50 cents back? Oh, that was mean. Well, that's David Wilcock. David, say hello. Greg Braden, of course, is an incredible author. He is so tuned in to things going on in the universe. Has been just a great guest on Coast to Coast. He deals with, I'd like to say that you're an expert, as Lynn is, in consciousness, in human awareness, Greg.
I just don't ask me to dance.
No, we're not going to have you to dance. I've got something else planned for you. But and he travels. He goes to Egypt. He goes to Peru. He looks for ancient mysteries on this planet. Greg Braden. Lynn McTaggart, of course. Whoa. Lynn, of course, she's an investigative journalist, well known for her book, The Field, an expert in consciousness. This is the first time, Lynn, you and I have met. You've been on the program 1,000,000 times, and it's good to have you with us. Lynn McTaggart. The next guy, I have no idea who he is. No, I'm kidding. I've not met. Dave Reynolds. Dave is kind of unique because he's an expert in Tesla technology, which is something we should have been doing 100 years ago. And he's going to talk about some of the new innovations and what's out there and what science is doing for us in that arena. Dave Reynolds. Then there's my old buddy, my military pal, the man who died 3 times and came back to talk about it. And boy, does he talk about it. Matter of fact, after I hand the mic over to Daniel Brinkley, I'm going to leave for 20 minutes, but I'll be back.
Good.
He also does something that is probably one of the most heartwarming things anybody's ever done on this planet. And he goes to veteran hospitals and deals with our military who are close to death or who are dying. And he literally is there holding their hand during that very sad episode. The Twilight Brigade with Daniel Brinkley. Thank you, Daniel. Next guest does not speak a lot of English, but we've got an interpreter there. But we're going to see how much English he can speak. Mateus D. Stefano. And he's going to talk about the history of the universe. Hola, Mateus. That's about it from me. You're from Argentina.
Yep.
That's good. It's a great spot. How much English do you know?
School English.
That's not bad. Hey, we can live with that, right? But we'll have the interpreter do something. She's here.
I try to do my best.
And what is her name?
Mila.
Mila. Okay. And you're from Argentina also?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Good to have you in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
Estados Unidos. How do you say United States in Spanish?
Estados Unidos.
I was close. All right, let us start. This is the Cosmic Awakening. A little bit later on, we'll take your questions from the audience, or phone calls, as I call it. David, let's start with you. You've been awake. You've been awake cosmically for a long, long time. Give me
Kept
your
me awake so far. I
That's
feel
right.
pretty good.
You are. You're chipper. Give me your perspective. What the heck is going on this planet?
First of all, what's the title of the panel? I
have no idea.
Okay. Cosmic science. Okay. So I want to make sure that you got what you came for.
Look, they already got your dance. They got what they came for.
That's true. That's true. Hopefully I'll get more money when I do it for the rest of the audience. But
Well, at $1 a person, you're going to do pretty
it's
well.
true. It'd be a good business, side business. All right. Well, I just finished a book recently called The Synchronicity Key, and what I'm ultimately showing...
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thanks to you guys, it actually debuted at number 8 on the New York Times bestseller list.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
So
My cookbook is 310,000. Jeez.
you can't exactly sell a cookbook on TV dinners, though.
Well, I know that. That's true.
Oh, that was funny, David.
So
The title, by the way, of the panel is The Laugh Factory.
I like to look at things that would normally be seen as metaphysical and woo-woo and delve into scientific evidence that proves that they're valid, because we still have this artificial division going all the way back to the Renaissance and the Reformation, in which the Roman government said, you let us handle God and you guys handle science. And it turns out that the Romans actually are the source of this oppressive force that's now becoming increasingly obvious. The NSA surveillance. If you go to my website, divinecosmos.com, there's an enormous free article I just wrote last night. Somebody printed it out and wanted me to sign it. It's like this thick in the printout. So it was like a book. And I wrote it in 12 hours, believe it or not. Who are these guys that are listening to your phone calls? And why do they care? Are they really looking for Arabs with box cutters? No. They are making sure that there is no threat to their power. And there was an earlier iteration of NSA surveillance called Total Information Awareness, or TIA.
DARPA.
Run by DARPA, in which the symbol is of the all-seeing eye on top of the Illuminati pyramid looking at the Earth and covering the Earth in its beam, and it's the northern hemisphere side of the Earth that's being hit by the beam. So we just saw the Grammy Awards, in which Katy Perry performed a satanic ceremony, and it's the 3rd year in a row that they've done, obviously, Luciferian rituals in front of everybody. Now that scares the hell out of people. But what I've discovered is something quite fascinating. You go back into all the ancient texts and you find out that they always talk about the ages of the zodiac. The age of Aquarius is what we just entered into after 2012. And we all thought that something really amazing was going to happen. Well, George hedged his bets, but...
Yeah, I did. I did hedge my bets.
You did, because you wanted to have a job in 2013.
Yeah, I wanted to get going.
You didn't want a Y2K to happen to you.
By the way, the next event, 2018. So.
Oh, cool. So when you look at the idea that ages of the zodiac were given to us and they show up in all these ancient cultures, what is the sizzle? Who cares? 2,160 years, so what? What we discovered, and I had to go back to obscure French research from astrologers in the 1960s that was almost completely obscure. Nobody knew about it. I found out that time is fractal. And that's actually the title of your book, one of your books.
2 books ago.
2 books ago, that's right. It's a great book. And I kind of went on the same thread and explored these ages of the zodiac. Now, what do I mean fractal? What am I talking about? This is going to sound really bizarre, but I'll give you just data instead of a theoretical. The data is, you look at Roman history, the age of Aries, you fast forward to the age of Pisces, exactly 2,160 years later, and all the same stuff happens. World War I becomes Rome versus Carthage. Carthage is Germany, Rome is now the U.S. The same things happen at the same time. World War II, Rome versus Carthage. The top Carthaginian general is Hannibal. You look at a picture of Hannibal and you compare it to Hitler, and they are identical. It's Hitler with a beard. Hitler does the same stuff. He invades the same lands the same way. Hitler uses tanks. Hannibal used elephants. The same years on the same land. And they do the same stuff. Then we see Richard Nixon is Scipio Africanus, Jimmy Carter is Emperor Cato of Rome, and the Watergate scandal was holographically duplicated in Roman history, and it continues right through to the present. And my psychoanalysis has concluded, and I said this in the book before Edward Snowden, that what the cabal represents will be defeated this year, or at least heavily weakened, by psychoanalysis. Because the nemesis of Rome, Carthage, was utterly and absolutely defeated in the psycho-equivalent of the year 2014, the last time around. Nothing is new. This is a fractalized system of consciousness iterating itself as what appears to be random events in history. Now, why the hell did Hitler come back again and do the same stuff? There is an allowance made in God's will, if you want to use that emotionally charged term, and I'll use it just for the sake of being pretty airy-fairy kind of left-wing liberal audience.
What?
Oh, I don't know about
Wait a minute, George. Cut him off, George.
By the way, Wilcock is on stage. Are you recording it?
Yeah, they're listening through mine. It's better reception over here.
Oh, let me do a little hands thing for a second
Okay.
here. He just accused everybody of being a leftist liberal. Look, there's nothing wrong in being socially left to help people.
Yeah, sure.
But the world is left and right, and sometimes a little in between. Who would consider themselves left of the line? There you go. Nothing wrong with that. How about right? Less. How about right down the middle of the road? Libertarians, constitutionalists. There you go, David.
Okay.
Just
I was
want you to know who
just
your audience is.
hanging out low-lying fruit as bait to get everybody laughing and insulting me. To kind of take the charge off of all this intellectual heavyweight stuff that I'm dropping on you. The geek
Unfortunately, you got no laughs.
You know, I personally see that these are artificial divisions created by the mainstream media and the cabal to basically exacerbate the tensions that have always existed on an archetypal level between town, left, and country, right. Liberal is town, cities, people have to work together. Right-wing, Republican, conservative is country. You survive on your own, you take care of yourself. You don't want anything to do with your neighbors unless, you invited it. Okay. Let's get back to the central hot button here, which is the worst dictator in modern history, the guy that everybody talks about if you want to think of ultimate evil, Hitler. And Hannibal, the name Hannibal, his previous incarnation, one age of the zodiac earlier, means the son of Baal, which Baal means the devil. So this guy is the projection of Lucifer. Okay? Why the hell did he come back? There's something that we didn't learn the last time around. It wasn't enough. And what I'm saying to you now is that my discoveries include the fact that the universe is a single organism, it's alive, and it has a personality.
Consciousness.
And we all have to grow through the class that the universe gives us.
Are you saying it's going to happen again?
I am saying that we need to get it right this time, and the way that we do that is by not wanting to keep polarizing ourselves, left versus right, us versus them, black versus white, Christian versus Muslim. Once we have the armament of scientific truth, we can respect different religions and different political views and different perspectives as if we were seeing our own brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Let's keep it there, David. We'll get the rest of it. Let's try to keep your remarks to about 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll get into a free flow. Greg Braden.
That was my question. How much time do we have? So my question, if my computer crashes, can the NSA give me a backup? Can I call them and ask for a backup of everything?
Your whole hard drive's in Utah.
I know it is. We're paying for it. Why not? Who needs carbonite? We got the NSA, right?
Free.
That's just the way it happened. So I'm going to use the first part of my 3 minutes. I want to say hello and welcome to everyone on this stage. I'm honored to be here with you, and I want to say welcome to everyone in this room. And I want to tell you how much we appreciate you creating the time in your lives to make a day like this possible. It's really important. And it's important for this reason. Are you still asking what's going on? Is that the question?
Mm-hmm.
My sense, we just did an interview a couple of weeks ago on this. If you're in this room, what I know is that you know this is no ordinary time. Sure, we know that. It's no ordinary time in the history of our nation, certainly, in the history of the earth, in the history of our civilization. And the experts are really clear to tell us that we are, in fact, living a time of extremes. And then David has done a beautiful job of giving us an umbrella of how those extremes are playing out in terms of cycles of time. The key here is that your life and my life, our lives are changing faster than we've been conditioned to accept that change. They're changing in ways we've never seen. We have no blueprint in recent memory. In ancient memory we do, but in recent memory we don't. And it's all leading to what is being called a new normal. There's a new normal that you and I are living in the world right now that's never been acknowledged in the mainstream. So for many people, there's a sense that they're waiting to get back to the way things used to be. And that's where the confusion comes from. And I couldn't agree more. I don't affiliate with any political party because just for the reason that you're talking about, it's the divisiveness that is keeping us in suffering right now. And the key to this new normal is once we have the facts of what this normal is all about, the fact that climate change is here to stay for our lifetimes. It's not going to go away no matter what we do in our lives. It's good to get off fossil fuels. It's good to use different light bulbs and drive smaller cars. Climate change isn't going to change. The economy that we have right now, the CBO is telling us, Congressional Budget Office, it's here at least until 2023. It's not going to change. It makes sense to adapt to this new normal. And as we adapt, we have to think very, very differently. Now, some of you know I'm a scientist. I was trained as a scientist. My degree is in the earth sciences. That's why I look to the cycles of the past to help me understand what's going on. I worked in the defense industry during the Cold War as the first tech ops manager at Cisco Systems, so I know about information sharing. And I think science is good. Science does not have all the answers. All science can do is give us information. Science cannot tell us how to apply that information in our lives. That's where the wisdom comes in, your wisdom. And that's the power of looking to the past. Now, science is overturned the story that you and I have been steeped in for the last 5,000 years about who we are in this world. It's a story of separation. And the best science of our time is now telling us just the opposite of the Darwinian theories, just the opposite of the theories of civilization, that we're deeply connected to our bodies, we're deeply connected to the earth, that history is cyclic, we can learn from the past, but here's the big one, that nature is based upon a model of cooperation, not competition. Nature is based upon what scientists call mutual aid, not competition, that we've been led to believe. That competition is what has caused the problems that we're trying to transform from right now. So the good news, I'm just going to say this really quickly, the good news is we already have all the solutions to all the big problems, the technological solutions. We've already got all the food to feed every mouth of every man, every woman, every child on the face of the earth today. There's no shortage of food. That's not the problem. We've already got the energy to bring electricity to every home of every family on the planet that wants that power. And you can do it cheaply without creating zero greenhouse gases, no greenhouse gases, and in an abundant and sustainable way. We have that. What is missing is the thinking that makes those things a priority in our lives. And I think this is where you and I now have reached what is a turning point. Are we going to repeat the cycles of history that David is helping us and other people are helping us to recognize? I got to tell you, George, you never know who's going to come to a program. I did a conference just outside the Beltway in D.C. not long ago. You never know who's in the audience. The first 5 minutes of the audience, I said, if anybody thinks I'm going to talk about secret governments, I'm not, so you can leave. And a bunch of guys in the back in dark suits got up and left. So you never know.
And then you started talking about secret government.
But during the break, this is the tell right here. During the break, a man came up to me, and he wouldn't tell me who he worked for, but he said, and this is very telling, he said, there was a time we thought we understood what was happening in the world. There's a time we thought we had a handle on the changes. And he said, and this is the language he used, he said, something has gone awry. And we don't know where things are going. And I said, why are you here? And he said, I'm here to see what your take is on it. It's the wild card of consciousness that was never factored in. And that's why it's so important for you all to be here. Thank you.
Great. Linda Taggart, of course, is an expert in intention experiments. We conducted that one over Washington, D.C. to minimize crime. You got to tell us a little bit about how that went. But it is truly amazing how it works. And you've got your finger on the pulse on that.
Thank you. Do you want me to talk about intention or answer that
Answer that question. We'll get into intention
later.
later.
Fabulous. Okay, well, thank you guys for teeing up the bull so brilliantly. I'm going to take up what Greg said about the story. I mean, Joseph Campbell said that we are a people and our problems stem from the fact that we are a people without a relevant myth. And I think that kind of sums it up because, science, we like to think of science as this ultimate truth, but science is just a story. And as Greg says, the story we've been told for 5,000 years, and really the last 300 plus years, has been a story of competitive individualism. First set out by Newton, where he described us as individual things, where I end with the hair on my skin, and that's where the rest of the world begins. And then Darwin came along and basically said those things are in competition, and created a scarcity fear model that has really governed everything. And his ideas really swept the globe and became a justifying principle for things like industrialized capitalism. So that's our story, and the story is basically, I win, you lose. Because we feel that in order for us to thrive, somebody else has to lose. And that's the mantra of our lives. That's the governing principle. And we are at the end stage of that corrupt and psychotic mindset. And maybe it was useful, it was a desert principle when, you had to grope around for food. But in this kind of context, what we've done and what we've got to essentially is the end stage of this kind of corrupt mindset. And that's what we're experiencing now. This is what selfish looks like. It is the breakdown of every societal structure. That's what we have now. So the issue is recovering a myth. And as Greg says, the fascinating thing about science, as far as we're all concerned, is that science is busily disproving this myth. Science is coming up with a new story. And the new story is that nature is not designed for competition. Nature is designed for connection. We've been designed in every way for connection, which is what I'm going to be talking about a lot tomorrow, is how we've been programmed for connection, but how we are at odds with that, and how we have to recover that mindset. And here's our challenge, individually and collectively. One, we have to learn another way to be. Because we've learned to be I win, you lose in every way. We've been programmed for competitive individualism. So we have to learn to see differently, relate differently. All of those kinds of things, connect. And one of the things, as George says, I've been experimenting with now for 7 years, is the power of small and large groups. My own personal feeling is that the reason that we are in this kind of mess is utter globalization, that we have lost our sense of small community, interdependent community that was an essential aspect of every kind of other society. We don't have that anymore. How many people even know their neighbors? So recovering and moving forward, to me, is decoupling from the bloated psychopaths who are running this world and recreating small community. And that's one thing that I've been really working on in trying to create bonded small communities that are interdependent and learning to connect and help and look after each other. And I think that's one of the essential parts moving forward. But the most essential of all is changing that internal hard drive. You know, David Cameron, I live in the UK, said once, he's the Prime Minister there, profit is not a dirty word. Profit is a bloody, obscene word. Profit is all about I win, you lose. That doesn't mean we can't have a capitalist society, but it has to move beyond this kind of sense that in order for me to get ahead, I have to do it at your expense. The price of my profit is your poverty. That has to go. And I see it as a ground-up approach.
Thank you, Lynn.
I think if anybody wants to start a metal band, the name Bloated Psychopaths has now been put out there. So just feel free to use that.
With you as the head dancer.
Oh, there we go. I'd have to gain weight, but...
David, I've been fascinated, as many people have, with Tesla technology for years. It's unfortunate that he was never able to be allowed to grab that energy out of the skies. But tell me your involvement in it and where we're headed.
Well, first of all, is the mic on?
No. No.
Hello?
You might have to share one there.
Hello? Thanks, Daniel.
By the way, Daniel will pull it back when he wants to. You're holding back.
Planet Earth is going through a new age, the birth of a new age, and we're seeing the evolution of a new age. We're at the very beginning stages of that. Our guest will articulate how things will need to change on all levels. So I represent the Unarius Academy of Science, whose core textbook is The Infinite Concept of Cosmic Creation.
How old is that book, Dave?
It was written in 1954 by a very high being. Ernest Norman is his physical name. And Ernest Norman is the author of several books. This is the core textbook. And Ernest Norman is a very developed clairvoyant, scientist, and spiritual person. He was overshadowed by the same consciousness that Jesus of Nazareth was overshadowed by. So, what is the new age that you're seeing come about? So planet Earth and all the people here are going through a tremendous transition. There is a changeover from old cycles to newer cycles. And indeed, old cycles repeat themselves over and over again. So we need to develop a physics of consciousness. That's what you're seeing, how consciousness will be added to physics. So there will be a joining of science and spirit. Now, there is a great spiritual hierarchy. They live in a higher spiritual dimension who has the care and the overseeing of the evolution of hundreds of thousands of planets. And they have sent representatives, emissaries from their higher developed spiritual worlds. Tesla was one of these people. He has a higher self that he's worked for ages and ages. Nikola Tesla's higher self is called Archangel Michael. One of his previous lifetimes was Leonardo da Vinci. So Nikola Tesla started leading us down a road to understanding physics. He gave us an energy system. It was only a temporary measure. It was not to hang on to it forever. He planted the seeds for pollution-free, wireless transmission of energies, which have their origin in other dimensions. So when we learn that every atom in our bodies, and everywhere in the continent, in any physical dimension, no matter what galaxy they're in, have their source from any number of the spiritual dimensions or a fourth dimension. So when science properly understands how atoms are connected to their higher self, improperly called the isotope, and linked up right to the heart of infinity, they will stop using fission and fusion to break that atom from its higher self. Fukushima never needed to happen had they had this understanding. This is a fourth dimensional understanding of how creation happens. Creation is going on all around us. There was never a beginning to the universe. There's never going to be an end to the universe. The universe is infinite, eternal. But there are certain beings who had to incarnate here to help us understand these. So that's the transition. Planet Earth is transitioning from old, worn-out cycles of me first, you last, I win, you lose, and we're evolving to a more spiritual dimensions or understanding where science can be joined with spirit. Now, Nikola Tesla planted the seeds, as I said, for this new understanding of energy. So if we could go back to where Kirlian photography left off and develop a physics that utilized vibrations, dimensions, tunability like a radio, and tuning in to the higher dimensions to bring down, like a radio, the infinite is broadcasting in many different dimensions. It's all a matter of learning how to tune into it. The Atlanteans were masters of this. And Nikola Tesla tried to introduce the old Atlantean technology, but he didn't call it that. He was in tune or inspired to bring about a new understanding of science. And the full articulation of all of this is in this great, incredible Unarius library. In other words, if we're going to evolve a very high, sophisticated Tesla physics or electronics or whatever you want to call it, we need the spiritual understanding not to misuse it. This is what happened in Atlantis. We all misused that one power tower that was erected in Atlantis. It powered the whole continent with wireless energy. Each home had a little split ball antenna that received that energy. So there's certain people who broke into that power generation station had no idea what they were doing. It caused the power tower in 12,000 BC to break apart. And it was in the middle of converting fourth dimensional energy into third dimensional usable energy.
It was George that did that.
And
thanks, Daniel.
At the bottom of the Caribbean, it's still partially converting and vectoring up that fourth dimensional energy known as the Bermuda Triangle. Yeah. One day we will have the physics with the help of probably the extraterrestrials to go down there and turn it off. So there is a wonderful new age of science and spirit coming about.
Very good, David. David, let me ask you one question first. My son, his wife, and two kids moved back from his job in Las Vegas. They're living in my place in St. Louis. So normally in the wintertime, when I was in Los Angeles, I would put the furnace down to about 50 and leave for a couple months. And my gas bill and my electric bill, minimal dollars. So I just got the bill from this incredible winter they're having in the Midwest and all around the country with human beings living in the house, and the gas bill was $700 for the month, and the electric was $400. My question to you, David, is there's no question we have the ability to generate wireless free energy. But with money like that being spent, are they going to let us do that?
No, because there's so many negative forces still in force here, but that's why there is such a strong need for light bearers like yourself to stop this, to educate our children to become leaders, new philosophers, new scientific thinkers. We need this revolution. It's going to take a while. It may not take one generation, but there has to be that morality. If we lose that morality, our planet may not make it. We have free will, but there are plenty of spiritual agencies willing and ready to help. So there are certain organizations that do not want to let go of the oil and coal industry. All the profits. Again, that thinking is old, outworn thinking. It has to be changed.
Absolutely. And again,
it will probably collapse on itself, like you said.
when anything ever happens in your life, always ask yourself who benefits. And 9 out of 10 times, you'll find exactly the source. Daniel, go ahead.
I want to thank all of you for being here, and everybody that's on this panel, and George for driving it, and Robert who puts it together, but also you. There is as we all know, there is this big shift coming, and each describes. I have a particular pretense toward the Maya explanation of it, because I've been studying the Maya since 1968, and I've probably made 100 trips in looking at their belief system. When I was listening to what everybody was saying, here's what the Maya said. At the end of every 5,120-year cycle, which we basically all believe that's where the Bible says we were, we've now identified it as a sectoral model, and Greg did it in fractal science looking. But the Mayans said that in December 21st, 2012, would end completely the era. The era, what was called the galactic period. It said that in the galactic period that all things done not in integrity would collapse. We have seen our governments, we have seen our banks, our religions, our institutions all collapse because the Mayans believe everything happens in a 5 cycles per day, based on when you were born and those signs. And it's brilliant, the astrophysics within it. And then you start to look at the fact that as we're ending this era, people did all those movies about 2012 being the end of the time, and when the world didn't come to an end, everybody got pissed, or they blew off the Mayans. But what the Mayans said, people said, well, how come they never went past 2012? Well, did anybody stop to think about the one word? Conquistador? The Spanish came and burned every book, crushed every tablet, put to death Aztec, Toltec, Maltec, Olmecs, Mayans, then into the Inca lands. So all that information disappeared. But what they said, there's a 400-day grace period, which would start December the 21st. That ended January the 26th, 2014. So to the Maya, it's year zero. The Mayas count down. They don't go forward, they count down. So we're 5,125 years. This secret energy pattern that they can't calculate, like Greg is talking about, if you study the Maya, they say the first 52 years is the rise of the feminine. The feminine reaction and the feminine power would rise. And then go on to listen to what David says about the powers that be. You think Hillary doesn't know that? You think the description of what David was describing as a context of these cabals and Illuminati? And yet now a woman can be the president of the United States, and that mindset is in place. Think about this. But here's what the Maya said. They said the New Age, this one from the galactic, is based in this. There would be no secrets. They said there would be no secrets. And that a certain awareness and a rise of certain awareness, with everybody taking my records and recording everything I say, they can all kiss my ass. Okay? But what it also does is this.
Let's go to a commercial.
But what it always makes us do is it makes us become responsible. It makes us to know that there are no secrets. So I believe that what's going to be the driver is the near-death experience. Because if you look at these times trying to stabilize yourself in an economically turmoil, war, perpetrators of war, there's one group of 25 million of people in America who's had some form of experience. And a lot of people say that, but they were taking LSD. I hear the stories, but you got to remember, guys, if you lose the fear of death, that means there's only pain. And once you start looking at that, and you're paying attention to it, then that place, that 25 million Americans, and the fact that the people who is the fault that we keep coming back, they can only blame themselves. I'm back here because of modern science brought me back. The thing that I discovered about modern science and now pharmacology and medicine, they believe it's a dead universe. They believe you're just a bunch of chemicals, a bunch of reactions, okay? And everything, nothing moves outside. Well, I know that's a bald-faced lie. I've been dead so many times that that's a boring comment to me. Okay, that's a boring comment. People say, well, I don't care if you ever believed it. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is this phenomenon is happening because of the advancement of chemistry. Okay, the turning point is the feminine power. Guys, pay more attention, and girls, tone it down. You will be heard. And the other point of it about is a turn in power is the realization about the fact that people don't die. There's a spiritual identity that science has proven. The system that says that we are in a dead universe is the same system that has empowered us to believe that we're in a living universe. And you have to accept that, and where the cutoff point is this: the day science demands a pharmacology plant, a pill purser, a drug company, to tell me electrically how that product works in my system. And we will go from the pharmaceutical, chemical, gasoline, fossil fuel driven to the Tesla system, because we're living in an electro universe, we're spiritual electro beings, and once you have to define everything within those contexts, and we start demanding, especially with pharmaceuticals, we begin to become aware of our inner, deeper spiritual self. That is the transformation with us paying attention to what women are talking about.
Mateus, you can try English, Spanish, whatever you feel comfortable with.
I tried.
Okay.
I tried to do it in English. She will help.
All right.
First of all, I must say that what I speak is just because of my memories. I hadn't studied, I hadn't read any book or whatever. I just, since I was a kid, since I was 3 years old, I could remember what I did before my I was born. So what I am trying to explain to people in my trips and my speeches is what I just remember, not what I have written or known. So about your question, I just can say that I had a lot of memories about the beginning of the universe or lives and staying in other galaxies and how the patterns of the universe were created. I used to work in a web that you may call here Akashic.
Akashic records.
Yeah, I use another thing, but that name.
What is it?
It's another name. That place, that is not a place, has the whole energy and the whole information around everything was created. And what I want to share with you is that we were all created by ourselves, but being just one. So, in the first time the universe was created, but not created, just recreated, we were all together, and we knew what we were, but we have never experienced what we were really. We need to create something to experience what we know we were, but we never done. So what we're supposed to do in our trip was co-create everything. And there's two patterns that human knows as spiral, as a spiral, and the other one is really known in humankind is the heart shape. This. If you can gather both, you may see how the universe works. But don't think about love. Yeah, this is not love. You need to change your mind about that. this is not love. This is just frequency in move. So this pattern made that we were all connected in one point, but suddenly we need to see what was inside of us, what we were really. So the only way we could do that is just to seeing us outside, to experience our lights, our lights, different kind of lights we had inside. So we can experience each one of them. So when we do that, we start to make a path between what we have inside and what is outside, and that begins to be like this, like this path, to make that shape of the heart. We are united, and then we begin to separate. But the only way to see the light is to see every part of the light, and every also the matter of the light. So we turn the light heavy. So we create the darkness. Why? Because only in the darkness you see how much you bright. So we create that so we can share, we can experience about that. It was fun at first. Yeah, you all maybe had fun. But suddenly we were in this, there's a spiral. So this spiral makes a lot of experiences. That they were talking about the fractal. Yeah, those fractals are like a spiral that we live once and again and again and again, but always a new experience, a new one. It's high to up, down to up, or whatever as you see. So, but in this pattern, every time we experience is worst. But this worst is because we are more separate, each time more separate. So we could not see what is in front of us. So we think it could maybe kill us, but it is ourselves. But
I can't kill myself.
Yeah. Because you're going back. I did once.
Daniel, I don't think you'll ever die.
It doesn't seem like it.
So, when you don't understand what you are really, you start to fight. You start to make tools to understand what is really. So we create religion, culture in every planet. This is one of the last planets we created, so that's what the chaos is. We were experiences we have experiences of the dark, but suddenly, now this point of the creation, we had experiences a lot of these spiral experiences, and now we are in the most separate part of that experience. So what we see in the reality is that it seems that everything is really wrong, that everything is really bad. But we create that. We had created once, so we could really know about our bright inside. So the only way to go back is to see those separate points as one again. So we cannot fight with others. We cannot fight with anybody because everybody is us. So we just separate ones to could see each part of us inside. So if you want to go back to the center, you need to see the center in the bad person, in those who are trying to kill us, or those who try to govern us. Because we put them there, so we have the power to change it. But the only way to change it is not to argue with them, is to love them. If you love them, you are loving you also. So what you are trying to do with them, with compassion, is trying to explain, hey, we are changing, we are going back. So why don't we go back together? We cannot pull out from the system because they create the system also. So we are all together, so we could gather. we are now in this time also because 15,000 years ago, sorry, 15,000 years ago, we tried to do that. Atlantis, they were trying to do that. They had a lot of experience to do that, but we hadn't experienced the most darkness experience. That is our time. Well, our past time. So they just disconnect each other because the planet needed to know how to be really dark. And now we are trying to get out of this darkness, but only we could do that by loving the dark, not pulling out. So the Earth is trying to share with us that connection. Earth doesn't kill people. Earth allows 7 million people living there when we are most. She's not allowed to have so many humans. We are almost overcrowded. So you are here because she allows you, and she doesn't hate anybody. She knows, or she or he, whatever. She. She? Okay. She.
Where's the interpreter?
No. I need to. She wants to. She wants to everybody to change, but we need to change with her. We need to change with her. So she is changing a lot. She's really changing now. So it doesn't matter if we are changing inside or wherever we are in the time, that we all must change because the Earth is changing. So if the vehicle is changing, we need to change also because she's going to one way and we need to go to that way or die and go to another planet and enjoy the other one. But so the only way that Earth can share with us is we loving everybody as the Earth loves us, so we can live here. So this is the only way.
Right, thank you, Mateo. I have an idea that the next armed conflict we have on this planet, we put the leaders in a room and let them beat the hell out of each other, and then that'll be it. I bet if they knew they had to get into a fight, we wouldn't have any wars.
Yeah.
At all.
Children.
At all. Mateus, I want to ask you one question. Answer in Spanish because I want to hear the interpreter.
Okay.
Okay. Do you think that there is hope for us on this planet?
¿Piensas que hay esperanza para nosotros en este planeta?
Depende qué significa esperanza.
It depends on what you call hope.
Porque nosotros ponemos la esperanza
Because we put our hopes
en algo que creemos que es esperanza.
in something that we believe that is hope.
Porque solemos crecer con patrones de lo que la cultura nos enseña que es la esperanza.
Because we grow up with a certain belief of patterns of what culture tells us that is hope.
Entonces, lo que tendríamos que hacer realmente es pensar qué es la esperanza para nosotros individualmente.
So we truly need to think of what hope means for each of us.
Y la Tierra confía en nosotros.
And Mother Earth trusts in us.
Y hace más de 12.000 años que está haciendo lo posible porque lo hagamos bien.
And for over 12,000 years she's been trying for us to do it well.
Entonces yo creo que hay esperanza porque tenemos otros 12.000 años.
I think there is hope because we still have 12,000 years more.
Así que creo que vamos a poder hacerlo bien.
So I think we're going to be able to do it well.
Pero no en los tiempos que nosotros creemos.
But not in the timing that we believe.
Porque la Tierra tiene otros tiempos para que esto tenga realmente una esperanza para todos.
Because Earth has a different timing, so this can actually work for everybody.
Así que yo personalmente creo que hay esperanza.
So personally, I do think that there's hope.
pero no de que esa esperanza nos lleve a donde nosotros creemos,
But not that this hope is going to take us where we believe that it's going to take us,
sino lo que realmente sentimos que es la esperanza.
but what we really feel that hope is.
Thank you. Isn't that cool? George? Hold on one second. Thank you for this. By the way, I speak fluent Spanish, and what he was saying was, I'm hungry, I want a sandwich.
George, I wanted to say something what he was making. The word hope is a combination of three Greek words. It's when we say hope, it's a combination of three Greek words, but where the original concept of hope in Greek, it was the last curse let out of Pandora's box. So when you use the term hope in the original structure of the term, it means that you're cursing whatever
Hold on
it
for
is
a
you're
sec,
doing.
Daniel. Hold on, let's hear this little message.
Have your attention, please. Have your attention. The emergency response team has determined that there has been a false alarm. We apologize for any.
We didn't even know there was an alarm. Leave us alone. Go ahead, Daniel.
The last curse that came out of Pandora's box was hope. So when you're hoping, you're cursing something. You have faith and you believe. Don't put hope anywhere in your life. And I think that's what he was trying to get across to us. What do you mean by hope? We believe and we have faith. But when you hope, you're cursing that issue.
George, can I speak to that?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm glad for this opportunity because it's the rest of what I didn't say the first time around. I want to be straight up with everybody in this room right now. I have never been more optimistic about our future, about our nation, about this planet, and about our lives. And I am right this minute. And it's because the things that don't work are now breaking down. It's because we know what's unsustainable. We know what doesn't work. We can stop doing what doesn't work and do a lot of the things that do work. And I'm also a realist, and I am under no illusion of the amount of work that I believe it will take for us to move in the direction we now know is possible. How many in here are familiar with the work of the prophet Khalil Gibran? Have you read the book, The Prophet? He says something so beautiful. He says, work is our love made visible. Work is our love made visible. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, but now I think we've got a clear vision of what's possible and the opportunity to make our love visible in that way. And so I'm excited.
Me too.
I can't imagine a better time.
It's going to be a bumpy road.
It is
not going to be easy.
I can tell you, I was on a long flight from Atlanta. I lived in northern New Mexico. I was flying from Atlanta, Georgia, back to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and a military man was sitting next to me. We got on the plane, and first thing he said, business or pleasure? And I said, I'm doing both. He said, so what do you do for a living? And I said, well, how much time do you have? And we had, 3.5 hours. He said to me, this is why I'm sharing the story. He said, my wife and I were based in Albuquerque, Kirtland Air Force Base, Albuquerque, New Mexico. He says, we would never bring a child into the world the way the world is right now. And I thought, interesting. I said, why? And he told me all the reasons why. And I said, can I share another perspective? I said, why would you deny a child the opportunity to come into the world right now when everything is up for grabs and one life can make all the difference in the world? So the last time I saw him, we got off the plane. I saw him in baggage, and he grabbed his bag, and man, he was like booking out of the airport. I said, where are you going? He said, I'm going to go find my wife. We're going to make a baby. And I said, all right, did my job. I love it.
Can I share something that happened to us this autumn as an example of belief that positive change is happening? The other thing that I do is I run a magazine called What Doctors Don't Tell You, and it's quite subversive in that it looks at what conventional medicine doesn't do right and talks about better alternatives. And we actually study the medical literature and hang medicine with its own rope. So we turned this into a magazine 18 months ago. It was a newsletter for 24 years, and immediately a pharmaceutical-backed organization tried to ban us. They contacted our distributors. This is in the UK, although it's in 9 countries, including the US. They contacted our distributor, all the stores. They got doctors. They finally got to the media. And the media wrote some unbelievable libelous stuff about us, how we were, our stuff was going to kill patients. And it got picked up by all of the media. This was the Times in London. Then the BBC got hold of it. Channel 5. They were holding up pictures of me. Burn this witch! And all of this was going on. No one interviewed us. So we were besieged by all of this conventional stuff. And the Times wouldn't take a reply from us. We couldn't sue. I talked to a libel expert who said, don't bother trying to sue. Use this as a platform. Use your social media. And that's exactly what we did. And I started thinking about it, and I thought, wait a minute. Our own list plus Facebook is probably the circulation of the Times. Then I've got lots of friends. So we started writing back, and I started doing things every day on Facebook. 10 things the Times did wrong in their article. 10 dirty tricks by the Quackbusters. On and on and on. The Times freaked out. They started arguing with my fans on my Facebook page. My fans are telling them they're canceling their subscriptions. It starts going totally viral. And, the Times can't do anything about this, so they do another hatchet job on us. It gets my fans and everybody even madder. Upshot is, our website won a Health Website of the Year, an international thing that was a reader's vote, a viewer's vote over the NHS, Bupa, everything. We win this, and we totally won the thing. All the stores kept us and put us even more prominently. So, my message to you, it was really interesting. And they started infiltrating these organizations we had trolls on our website. We had people trying to take down our Google rankings. It was unbelievable. And we had lots of our guys, finding out about this. So my point is, it's a really wonderful subversive time where we have this decentralized power that we just don't recognize, that we can take advantage of via the social media. Look at the Middle East. We have this, I'm really optimistic too, because 10 years ago even, that would not have been possible.
Exactly. Very far. Go ahead, Dave Brown.
And it's that 52-year cycle for you, girl.
Adding a little note from a slightly different perspective. Greg probably knows more about this, but you know how metal is purified through smelting? Well, they remove impurities from metal. They put it sometimes under intense heat, so the impurities can be burned away, and what's left over is a purified metal or alloy, right? All right. So planet Earth, due to its unique history, ancient history, and all the cycles that are coming back, there is intense light directed to our planet by the higher spiritual hierarchy. Now, that light, or let's put it another way, all the negative cycles that we've been through, the destruction of Atlantis, Rome, the debauchery of Rome, etc., etc., all of those negative cycles are coming back to planet Earth to be burned away. So it's like a cauldron of burning liquid, and all of the impurities, i.e. the negative cycles, are coming to the surface. And with our connection to our higher self and the spiritual agencies, we're going to be able to get through this because of all the different processes that are going on to heal planet Earth. So what you see is the transition between the old ages and the new ages being born. So this smelting, this purification will occur over dozens and decades of years. So in the future hundreds of years, you will see planet Earth become purified because of the burning away and the releasement of all the negative cycles that are now coming to the surface.
I hope I'm gone then.
You won't be gone.
All that purifying stuff, man.
A lot of us
You'll be saved by the light 10 times before.
A lot of us will be coming back as New Age thinkers, scientists, advocators, leaders, to guide this planet into a new age.
Thank you. And let's hear from you, David, and then we're going to take your questions for the time remaining. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I believe that synchronicity is one of the big ways that you break through the conditioning that says that this is a Cartesian universe in which there's an explosion that created the universe, nothing exploded. How the hell does that work? Nothing exploded. And then from that, so they want you to believe the whole universe was created in one moment, and it's never going to happen again, just all at once.
7 days, man.
Oh, 7 days? That's how long it went? Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Then the second explosion is the primordial soup, right? Lightning hits this stuff, and then just once, only ever in this one entire universe, boom, life shows up in that soup. So what we're now learning scientifically, and this is a really cool panel. I mean, everybody here has pieces of the puzzle that are very valuable. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I just
6 coast-to-coast shows.
I just freely plundered information out of Lynn McTaggart's book to write my book. I've never denied that because it's an encyclopedia, and so is mine. And there's crossover. There's Lynn McTaggart in my bibliography. So
Makes you smart, David.
it does. And
Plagiarizer.
well, loving emulator, maybe. How about that?
Oh, wow.
That's political.
And I was talking to
You're still
Greg
upset because
before.
you only got $1.
Well, I'm working my way up the ranks, you know.
I get 2 dances out of that.
You get 2 dances. All right.
Depends on how many.
Lock the doors.
Greg and I were talking before we started that the first time I actually spent time with him was I helped you pack up your stuff at the ARE. Because everybody wanted to talk to you, but then when it was time for you to do the hard work, they all left. And I hung around. Man, I want to be like this guy. So I said, well, what can I do? You know, my mom was a performing musician.
1920.
2000, I think. It must have been 2000. Yeah, something like that. So what we now know from, and Lynn's book has a lot of this kind of stuff in it, life is a quantum property that emerges out of the background of space and time itself. It's not Darwinian random mutations. It's part of the universe. The universe is built to make biological life. And therefore, consciousness is a field effect. So we had a demonstration here, and it didn't seem like anybody figured that out. Daniel was talking about hope being an illusion. You don't need to latch on to hope. The Tibetans said the same thing. They said, in order to become enlightened, you must transcend hope and fear. Transcend hope. So here Danny is talking about transcend hope, and then we get this message that everybody has to listen to. It interrupts everything. And what did it say? It's a false alarm. Hope? I mean, that was a blatant demonstration from the higher forces. In my view,
That's good, Dave.
you don't need to hope. Hope's a false alarm because we already know space and these guys. Go read my article, divinecosmos.com. It's called. It's a really crazy title. It's called "Decloaking Lucifer as a holographic angry child having a temper tantrum." And what I said in there.
That's a catchy title.
I learned how to write grabbers, you know, because the internet's very competitive to get those eyeballs.
I think Uncle Louis just got a lot of bad press.
Anyway,
I've lost control, haven't I?
what I wanted to say was that, and I'm going to talk about this tonight, 8 o'clock, Illuminati versus Your Ascension, the Ultimate Showdown. This whole concept of the living universe got a serious kick in the pants on September 17th, 2013, when 2 scientists Arkani Hamed and Trunka, very difficult names to say, discovered that all of the different things that have ever been measured in the quantum realm, and each one of these little squiggles is mapped out with a 90-page set of equations called Feynman diagrams, written by Richard Feynman. And there's thousands of these things. All of the Feynman diagrams, which explains what space and time is and how the universe is made when things fly around, they can all be explained as jitters of a single geometric object. And that means that space and time itself is all an emanation of something that is fundamentally without location in space or in time. And once you get to that point, if you see that consciousness is an attribute of the universe, then quid pro quo, it must be primordial. It must be that the universe is conscious and alive and aware. And once we have that, we are right back into everything that we've been saying on this panel as a scientifically validated fact. So I love what Lynn said about that science is just a story. It's a story that we think is more believable, but synchronicity is what's crashing through and telling us, no, maybe not. And we just had a big demonstration of that here. I wanted to point that out to you, so thank you.
All right, David. Very good. Let's take some of your questions. Let me introduce, by the way, a couple people. Where is Gina Salvati, our assistant producer? There's Gina in the back. Say hi to everybody, Gina. Assistant producer of Coast to Coast.
Yay, Gina!
And then, of course, Tom Danheiser.
George over here.
Who produces the program. Where? I see now. There you are. Tom Danheiser, producer of Coast to Coast and Beyond Belief. There you go.
Okay, if you have a question, just raise your hands and they'll get to you. And I have the first question
right over there.
Hello, everybody. Brian Engelman with the New American Media. Thank you again for another good panel. Talking about the cosmic science angle. We look back through history, you have baseball great Ted Williams and Walt Disney, who tried to cryogenically freeze themselves, back to the Pharaohs, trying to become embalmed, wanting to come back again. I want to get, and let there be lights. I wanted to get your thoughts on the soul. Is that something, because looking forward, you see, I think it's the 2020 project where they're trying to download the human soul that can live forever. I just want to get your thoughts across the panel on what the concept of the soul is moving forward as technology keeps advancing.
1 minute apiece for the soul. Greg Brady.
I'm not sure I understand what the question. I know what the words are. What you're asking us, what our idea of the soul is, where it fits into
its identity as we move forward.
Moving forward, there are projects, there are people, there are scientists and researchers that are trying to download the soul, to continue the soul, to disembody from this thing that we walk around in, this skin suit, and continue it mechanically, electronically. My question is that something that can even be done? All right, now let's go with that.
Will technology allow us to do that?
I don't think it will, but I think science, this is the value of science. Science is only the information, it's the knowledge of our relationship to the world, and it's the missing piece right now. John Wheeler, Princeton University, before he died in 2008, said this so brilliantly. He said, you know, we're in a universe that is still evolving. It's not finished yet, and until we write consciousness back into the equation, we're not going to figure out how this thing works. So I think science will lead us first to understand that the universe is conscious and it is alive in that respect, and from that, the soul is going to be the next step. From that, are we going to be able to duplicate it and download it? That's a whole conversation about the holographic nature of this universe and the fact that you and I aren't really even in this room. And when we really get what that means, then the whole idea of the soul even begins to change. So it
expands.
Go ahead, Daniel. Let's get you in. For the sake of time, we'll just do you.
And what it does is it expands. Remember, it has to be carbon-based. In order for the soul to maintain, you have to have H2O, you have to have water, you have to have a carbon base. Okay, so whether it's possible to transmit the soul into some electrical system or some device or computer, it's possible. Mind-matter interfacing is already happening, but is that the place where people who want to live forever? Are those people, just like he was defining it, those who wanted themselves frozen so they could cure their illness? If you know what I know, you don't want to stay here 1 second longer than you're supposed to be. And if you know what I know, you want to get out of here maybe a half hour early. Okay, so you missed the pain. But remember this, and this is a Greg position, but watch. You're made up of atoms, of molecules, and of cells. Okay? And in the house of that is a soul. If you take all the empty space out of an atom in your body, that's 94.6% empty space. If you take all the empty space out of every molecule in your body, that's 98%. And if you take all the empty space out of every cell in your body, that's about 97.8%. So by taking all the empty space out of every atom in every body in the United States, and take all the empty space out of every molecule of everybody's body in the United States, and take all the empty space out of every cell, all 310 million of us will fit in an average-sized matchbox. With that being absolute science, who are you and where are you? Just the same as what Greg was saying. So when you try to combine or lock the soul into a consciousness that's a machine, you have lost your identity of reality and your ability of perceiving who you are within this framework. Please, even if they can figure out how to do it, don't do it.
Yes. I think there's an even more fundamental issue here. What on earth is a soul? I mean, I have a real problem with this whole body-soul thing. I mean, that's that whole old thinking of duality. I mean, we're not really talking much about the C word. Really, consciousness is what we're really talking about. And we haven't really talked about it much in this panel. No, I don't think they are going to reduce it to some sort of mechanized thing, although we can record the sound of molecules, we can record the frequency of a variety of things to actually encompass consciousness. Consciousness is everything. And here's our issue, is we keep trying to create this particulate separateness of each of us and not understand that consciousness is this all-enveloping thing of which we are a part. And when we can begin to tap into that and harness that, that is really where we're going to start moving forward and evolving. So, we perhaps want to address that a little bit more in this panel before we go.
Well, you talk about the late baseball great Ted Williams, by the way. His family, after he died, cut off his head, and it's frozen cryogenically because they are, I swear to God, they are waiting to be able to get to the point where they can download his memory into a clone body, and you'll have another Ted Williams again. Now,
there's hundreds of that.
But this is what's so bizarre about this, and let's take the soul out of it for a moment. If that is possible one day, and when you walk around and you're thinking to yourself, and your memory's there, you've got that little voice in your head that is supposed to be you. But other than that, your body's like a shell, right? You move your hand, you do this, but what is it? Think of those possibilities. If they really can download memory, they can clone your body, put your memory in it, and you literally will never die. You will just go on and on. I'm not sure I want to do that.
No. Okay. What is the soul? That's a very good question. In fact, Unarius and Ernest Norman has clearly answered that. From our perspective, the soul is called the psychic anatomy, or the spiritual anatomy. It basically consists of three parts. The most important part is the superconsciousness, or the higher self. It's the part that is a collective lessons you've learned in your karmic or reincarnations. All the positive experiences and lessons you've learned through overcoming negativity, go to right to your higher self. You have another part of the psychic body that restores all the experiences you've ever experienced in your past lives. So every lifetime we get a brand new subconscious. Every lifetime. But there are the other parts of the psychic body that go with you from life to life. So people who have an ability to do art or science or speaking or whatever it is, that is something you've earned, you've learned in the spiritual dimensions, and you've rematerialized it into this dimension. So the soul is something, a spiritual dimension. It's not in the physical, nor should it ever be downloaded, because that is a misuse of spiritual understanding. That goes against eternal wisdom to do that. Now, there are planets who have tried that, and we have information on that, and they regret ever going down that road. So we can learn from the mistakes of other planets, and this is where Unarius really shines. So the soul is the psychic body that lives in another spiritual dimension, not in the physical.
Gina, let's take a question from you over here.
Hi, thank you. My question is for all of you on the panel, but specifically Matthias.
Okay, what we're going to do is just go to one person, just because of time.
Okay, then I'd like to direct it to Matthias, although I love you, Greg. I mean, I really love you.
Woo! Lock the door.
And turn off the lights. Matthias, I wanted to get your take on this new breed of children that are coming into the world. When you were specifically talking about your spiral, and I know I'm trying to get over to you, the spiral and what's needed for us to come together from the outside of that spiral, there's a lot of talk about this new breed of children that are coming into the world. There's a billion names, indigo is thrown around, all these other names. But specifically, since a lot of your insight and gifts came to you when you were a child, I wanted to get your take on what you think of this new breed, this new consciousness that's coming at a very young age for a lot of people, especially right now.
Go ahead, Matthias.
Okay. We are not all new. We came from a lot of parts of the universe, a lot of parts of dimensions, a lot of dimensions. We are allowed now to came to the earth because the earth is opening its vibration. So we are coming here because we can now, but we are not different. We are there is a necessity of human people to make how do you say, to classify everything. So we are new, you are all we are indigo, you are Christic, but it's not how it works. We just came here from another places to remember or to connect with that conscience they were talking about, to remember we are all connected. So we just live it. We are not special. We just live it as normal things. And the earth is changing. That's why we not me, child anymore, but the child and young people can now be like that because the earth is like that right now. So any people, old people, adult people can also be like that because the earth is changing right now. We are just now allowed to come, but we are not different. We came from other places, but we are the same. Just remember a little more things.
We're stardust. Tommy, go ahead. From this gentleman.
Hello, George.
Hi.
Namaste, everybody.
Is that an African? No, that is a Amazon.
He's an Aquactus.
That's right. He's still around.
Yeah.
How old is he now?
He's 14.
Wow.
Question relating to pretty much what everything's been covered here in the title of the panel about consciousness. Courtney Brown, PhD, I'm sure some people in the room have heard, has said that there is going to be an announcement this month. It didn't say specifically what day and won't say specifically what it is, that is going to be the most profound thing in one of the most profound things in the history of the human race, as far as something that's going to be revealed and announced publicly. And he says that it will be posted on farsight.org when it actually happens. In the meantime, he's sending out email clues and things like that. And the one from last night sounded just like what we were describing today in terms of, planet Earth basically being run as a prison planet in former times, and how this pattern has sort of repeated itself. And I'm just wondering if anybody on the panel has any clues or insights as to what this announcement might be, or any insights or comments on it.
Well, ironically, I got an email. I don't know if that came from you or not, but I got an email yesterday about him, and that his announcement was coming. So we're checking that. Does anybody else know about that?
George, I'm actually, so if I could just interject, I know it did come from Courtney, because I'm actually a remote viewing instructor that was trained by him, so I'm on his direct email list. Okay. I get it straight from the horse's mouth.
We had, I did an interview with you a couple of weeks ago, and we took some callers the last hour, and there was a gentleman that called with a really interesting question, and I think it ties into this. I don't know what announcements can be made. There are no secrets, and nothing is set in stone. And that's, I think, something I really, really want to leave with you all in here today. There are all kinds of possibilities. There are all kinds of quantum possibilities and hypotheses. Nothing is set in stone. And the gentleman that called that night, he was quoting the Bible to us. And if you want to go that route, how many in here are familiar with the Bible Code? Have you all heard of the Bible Code or read the Bible Code? Michael Drosnin came out in the 1990s. Even in that Bible Code text, which is the cycles, fractal cycles in the Torah that David's talking about that repeat again and again, every time it said that something frightening was going to happen and that we don't have a chance on this planet. Every time it says that, if you look closely, a statistically significant distance, very, very close, there's another phrase. And the phrase is the same all the way through. What the phrase says is, will you change it? Will you change it? And it means that whatever it is that's happening here is once we wake up and become aware, I'm going to speak to you, once you wake up and become aware of who you are and the power that you have in this body and in this world and of our connectivity and the true nature of cooperation in our world, it changes everything. And it means that it is up to us. It is up to us, and that's the question: will we change it?
Can I talk to that too? Just about the power of, we talked about consciousness, but I've been doing, as George mentioned earlier, I've been doing a lot of experiments with the power of collective intention. And we've run 25 experiments to date since 2007, sending intention to remote targets. Everything from trying to make seeds grow faster, to purifying water, to lowering violence. I actually ran one with George, where we sent intention, his audience, to Washington, 2 districts of Washington, D.C., trying to lower violence. And one of the districts was where Congress was. I thought they could use a little positive intention. And it was really interesting. We tracked it. I have a scientific team that do this, so it's very scientific studies. And we tracked it, and violence went down in those areas. Violent crime went down by 33%. Property crime went up, so it was just violent crime. And this is a pattern we've seen over and over in these experiments with small groups and groups with people participating from 90 countries around the world. So what I'm getting more and more convinced of is the power of collective intention. So we talk about if the future is a potential, if we're on the balance, so much of it depends on you. And believing and intending exactly exactly what you want to happen. I mean, I think that whole idea about consciousness being an actual power, an actual thing that affects other things, is something so powerful, something so left out of our very dismal and life-destroying story of ourselves. But that is really the thing that is going to change and save the world.
Right, Lynn, would you take a moment and set an intention and give us all the collective use of that intention for like 1 moment?
I'm going to ask somebody in the audience to do that. That's a brilliant idea.
Or let's have the audience do it.
Let's have the audience do it.
So let's hold that for a moment.
Two things to do that I found are useful. One is specific. The more specific, you hear a lot of time just for highest good. Let's tell the universe what you want. And secondly, make it positive. Not about things ending, but things beginning and something positive happening. And make it inclusive. As Matea said, it's not about us versus them. That's the problem. It's about being together and inclusive. So maybe somebody maybe George. You'd like to. Okay.
It's David Farman. Hello, David. Mr. Alchemy. How are you? Do a quick little intention.
Let's reduce hunger. Something we all can focus on.
Without George, you guys would not be here. Thank you so much.
All right, good talking. Let's get to the intention.
Intention. I'm the new hope for humanity, which we all are. My intention as a new hope for humanity, which we all are, is to bring all humanity in same consciousness of light and love, which we all are. This intention.
Okay, let's
go live.
Okay, I think that's a wonderful idea. So let's make it a little more specific. Let's say in 2014, by the end of 2014, we will see a rise of connection in humanity, of humanity coming together, and the end of conflict, and that we will see an improvement in connection, in love, in ending violence by, let's say, shall we say, by 35% or something? As I say, make it specific. Let's see a 1/3 improvement.
Come on, wait, stay with 1/3 and let's all do it. Let's take that minute, let's all do it.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to do, would you like me to,
Let's go higher.
to do it? Okay.
Let's go higher.
Okay, what would you like to do? Okay, 50%. 50% by the end.
Why by the end of the year? Can we do it sooner than the end of the year?
Oh, because 2014 is going to be a year of real tumultuous change. Okay, by the end of the year, we're going to see an improvement, an increase of peace and connection by 50%. Okay?
And realize that we did it, that we contributed to it when we recognize it. And please, let's take that moment and take our breath and breathe in as a focus.
Let's connect. Let's create an intention. Let everybody, if you could just hold hands for a minute, just everybody. If you don't like the person sitting next to you, move.
I wanted to do this for years. Lock the door.
Okay, now let's just close your eyes and take a deep inhale. And a deep exhale. And a deep inhale. And a deep exhale. And I'd like you to consider yourself as all connected, one giant single consciousness. And I'd like you to also imagine in your mind images of peace, particularly in war-torn areas. Just imagine peace and love and symbols of peace, like doves. And just imagine that and take that consciousness to areas of conflict, whether in the U.S. or around the world. And now I'd like you to take this phrase, our intention is to lower conflict and increase peace by at least 50%, and to increase connection and unity and love on the planet by 50% by the end of 2014. And just take that thought and bring it down to your heart and just send it out to those areas that you've imagined are in need of peace. And just hold this as a single unit for 1 minute. While you're doing this, just feel this palpable sense of oneness. The connection you feel with everyone in the audience. Now, in your own time, just let go of that intention and slowly come back into the room.
I like that. I will admit that I kept one eye open. Daniel went into every woman's purse.
I was thinking about it.
That's what I was picking up. Well, we've got a few minutes left. Let's take a few more questions for you. 5 minutes left, they're telling me. And by the way, last year, we all waited around after the event, and we destroyed the event after us. So tonight, Robert Quicksilver has, a 6 o'clock reception, Tommy?
Can't hear you, Tom.
You're not on.
Well, they got to turn on the mic. There we go. It's a 6 o'clock reception, so if anybody wants to go to the mixer, they can talk to the panelists then. But for right now, when we're done, everybody's going to exit.
In the Bel Air room.
Please, everybody, if you get a chance, come tonight. Where we get to talk and get
do what Daniel says, guys.
I can go through your pocketbooks.
Okay, let's get another one here.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Catherine Athens, and I'd like to introduce the feeling, the idea of love. And bringing love, you notice that when we did our intention, you deferred to the feminine person in the middle of the board. And I'd like to ask each of you to think about and maybe to comment on the introduction of the resurgence of the feminine, which has very little to do with male or female, but is a concept, is a feeling that will pervade everyone and all space and will transmute the cosmos in ways that we, at this moment, cannot understand. And the other thing I'd like to do is just to remember or to remind everyone, when you send your intention from your heart, it's 5,000 times stronger than from your brain.
That's true.
So I'd like, if you could comment, especially...
Let's start with you, Daniel.
Danny, my friend.
You're right into that.
I agree. I think that why we picked Lynn, that's me understanding that the feminine is a pulse, it's a harmony, it's a blending, it's a union, it's a unity, it's protective. It's a place that makes decisions a lot of times, you would call emotionally, but they're the right concept. Why I wanted Lynn when she started that, understanding that the feminine power is, like the Maya say, is in place. And we would feel it better. We take all that scientific stuff. I like to hear it. I get impressed. But it's knowing the heart of that person that's delivering that information. And when you look at these people, they're wonderfully funny. They're all good friends of mine. And to see that side of them hold hands and us come together to reduce, that's the power of the feminine. Guys wouldn't do it, but we did it. But look, wait a minute, because we're special, guys. We choose to be here because we make the difference. We're guardians and keepers of a transitional period, and we have to each recognize that and own that. You're never going to die, but if we don't get it right this time, we're going to keep messing up. And for me, I had enough of this place.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for the panel. Huh?